United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Did you get the agenda?
Yeah, I have the agenda. Locating it is going to be the next good thing. Here it is. Oops. And I don't have it. I do have it. Okay. Thank you, Judy. We have minutes as the first order of business to review and approve. I think the process is we first say, we put it up for approval, and then we discuss it, and then we finally vote. Okay? So, any comments? Did you all get a copy of the minutes? You should have. Does anyone have any comments on the minutes? I have one or two, but I wanted to know if anybody else did. They're great, by the way, again. The only thing that was sort of missing from them was the school. So, if no one has any other comments, where it goes in part election of chairman, and it goes into Diane Hardy, and then it talks about we're doing this for the town administrator and town council. If we put in as well as the school district of Newmarket.
Right there on the second paragraph? After the motion?
Where just after where it says town council finalizing the 2019 budget for warrant article prepared for the ballot in March 19, as well as the Newmarket School District. I think that can fit in there. And then under 5, schedule, the TBA for Wednesday was decided to be visiting the school.
Right, but not at the time that we had our meeting.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Right,
That's
because we
fine.
had to confirm it all.
Okay.
So we'll just say to be determined.
Yeah, that's fine. Other than that, they're great.
Good. Yeah, I thought you did a great job. Thank you.
I always appreciate you leaving out most of the things I say.
Yeah.
Oh,
Wow.
Amy. Amy is here.
In perfect time to say if you have a comment on the minutes.
I do not.
Okay. All in favor of approving the minutes as
Can you
amended?
make a motion?
Oh, yeah, okay.
Give me a motion.
Do I have a
there
motion
a
to
motion?
approve the minutes?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
And that's second.
Amy seconds.
Okay, and that was as amended.
All those who approve the minutes as amended, please vote aye.
Aye.
I understand I wasn't there.
Okay, that's fair.
I'm abstaining from not being there as well.
Okay.
So 3.
1, 2, 3, yep.
Three.
Rick wasn't there either, but he doesn't count as an
Doesn't count.
abstention. And Greg was just an advisor. Yeah, 3, 0, and 2. All right.
Do we want to take up offices? Maybe that's under other business.
You mean, who's our vice chairman?
Yes.
Well, we're still kind of thin on the herd, aren't we? Should we? I'm willing to leave that till next week unless we have
Okay.
to, unless,
Does anyone have a burning desire to be the vice chair?
Judy, would you like to be vice chair? Okay.
I think
Well,
you got a nomination for
okay.
me.
Probably going to be here every time.
Diane, via me, or can you officially nominate? Okay. Well, we'll nominate Judy. Is there a second? For all those of you who don't want to be vice chairman, say I second.
Second.
Okay, there we go. Amy's with the program. All those in favor of Judy being vice chair, please signify by voting aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, yes, you can.
Unanimous.
Any nays? Any abstentions? Then we have a new vice chair. Thank you, vice chair. Okay. I'll try. And with that, Mr. Malasky, if you're comfortable where you are, or over there, or, yeah, go ahead.
I'll get one for you, everybody. You're welcome.
As Rick's getting ready, I know some of you are new to this. Please ask any questions you have, okay, as we go through this. One of the things, Diane, I just wanted to check with you as Rick's getting ready. It was so organized at one point, and then I just absolutely lost it. But the priorities I wanted to go over. Because, well, I just want to go over for everybody that we try to prioritize the process. And are those still the ones we have?
Yes.
Okay, because people are using Ds, and we have two that begin with D. So
Oh,
I don't
okay.
know which one
We'll
they
have
are.
to clarify that.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Super. But putting that as, so what we try to do in going through the process, and then I'll let Rick start the presentation, is as we go through and understand what the needs are, the next question is it an urgent need, which should be something that's filled next year? Is it necessary, which may not be urgent, but hopefully will be filled in the next year or two? Or is it something that is desirable or, down the road type of thing? And at the end, we sort of vote on both priorities that we give to the town and the school, what our opinion is, as well as what the budget is. Okay, Rick, take us where you would like.
So you're page 9 in your book, I guess?
8, there's 8.
Page 8? I don't have your binder, so you'll just have to just cue me. to
Fire
what
and
page you're-
rescue
I'm sorry,
starts
okay.
at page 7, I believe, if that's.
Is that what you're gonna start with?
Fire and rescue?
Well, that's the first one in the thing, we can start.
I can start, or you just tell me where you are in your book.
Page 7,
Trying to
did you
make
get your pages?
I have my pages, I don't have what the committee has.
Okay, that's fine.
Well,
So you just tell me what page you're on?
Okay,
and we'll go
the
from
first one is the fire rescue equipment,
there. Okay.
capital equipment.
since it's both Rick, I guess we can change the order if we need to, go in order in the pages. Yeah. fire
I'm just
and
trying to
rescue.
keep it simple, I don't know what order you have.
That's okay.
That's fine.
So fire and rescue,
Yeah, we're,
Yes,
equipment,
equipment.
this is all current equipment that is within the department. It's the air packs, the thermal imagers, the mobile radios, the portable radios. The Scott air packs are relatively new. Thermal imagers are a few years old. The mobile radios were just all replaced. We got a grant, buy one, get one free essentially. So, that worked out well. The only thing that we're in need of is portable radios. We've been trying to purchase 10 a year, they're very expensive. We've only been buying 5 because of budgetary restraints. Right now, we have people sharing portable radios, which is not an ideal situation. If it's a big enough incident, like something that happened in Lawrence the other day, obviously it happened and we went there, not everybody has a radio. Everybody has to have a radio because if someone needs to call a mayday, they gotta be able to call a mayday if they get separated. So, that's what we're looking to buy, is 10 portables. And we haven't really been funding the CIP to where it needs to be every year, so we're behind. And, one new thing that did come out that I'm gonna research is, they changed the law, and I think it took effect now, that the funds we get from the ambulance receipts, which we get 45,000 of that a year, goes in, and it can only be used to buy medical equipment for the ambulances. They changed the law now so that you can use that to purchase fire equipment, all equipment. It doesn't matter, it doesn't have to just be something that goes on the ambulance. It's a brand-new law, and it's supposed to pass and take effect, but we would have to have a new vote for that ordinance that was voted on to do this back in the day. It's been around for a long time now.
Which vote would that be?
It's the fund where it's every year, I think it's 45,000 goes into the ambulance revolving fund, I think they call it. It's from transports, and we use it to buy ambulances. Well, they would have to rewrite it. I don't know if it's something that would have, I think the town council can change it with their vote and not have to go back, but I have to see how that warrant was written in the original, and it's like 15 years ago, so it was a long time ago.
And we don't have the ambulance fund, do we? The revolving fund on the list of capital reserve overview, I don't think. At least I don't see one named that way.
Right now, enough goes in there just to buy the ambulances and the life packs. So if we could increase that a little bit, we could maybe stop buying these radios and portable, be back up. So, but we have to get that changed.
But we currently have 30 in inventory, and your hope is to replace 10 a year?
Yeah.
Okay, and I was looking at the 30 at $126,000. It's a little over $4,000 a piece. Does that make sense for the?
Yeah, they're actually 4,200 now.
Okay. And so that the 10 we're looking for is $42,000 on the bottom. So this is a listing of, for those of you who haven't been here before, and sorry, but we'll try to get all these together. The first part is a list of current assets that they have, how old they are, et cetera, and what the balance of the reserve is, what the proposed funding is, and then at the bottom is the highlighted area of, do we need this now, and what's the priority? And Rick has the 10 portable radios. We probably should have a $42,000 figure there.
Well, you got to remember these other items that are up for replacement, future out. That's what those other amounts are.
Right.
So when you see that 68,828, not only is that the portables, but these other items that we're going to buy, those further years out.
Right.
Right.
We're putting away for that. You know what I mean? And that's where we've been not doing. We used to do that, but we haven't been doing that. We've been saying, yeah, now you're going to get this. And now what happens is, like you'll see on the engine, I need to buy a $500,000 engine next year, and I got $236,000 in the bank to buy it. So I'm going to have to either do a lease purchase and hope that we can make that work, or drastically increase what we're funding. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm not trying to jump around, but
Yeah, well, no, but we'll get to that. At the moment, the 236 that's in the fund, if
covers.
you didn't see the next page, would certainly cover the radios, but is still underfunded.
Yeah.
And that's something that's happened every year, is the town at least has approved what, Diane, maybe 25 to 50% at best of what we've recommended.
Yeah, and that's been for the past 5 years.
It's been going on a long
Well,
time.
Yeah.
At
To
least
try to
almost.
hold the tax down with the school
Yeah.
rate increases and everything like that, and we never had a facilities director to look at the buildings, and Greg's doing that now. So we need to start putting more into the capital reserve.
And I believe last year you did put a little bit more into some funds.
Yeah.
You did do that. But it's hard to play catch up after so many years of that, it's really difficult. But like, we gotta buy portable radios, like it's really a safety issue. You can't, I'm not trying to play the safety card, but it's just a fact. You can't share a radio with your partner, because if you get separated and you can't call a Mayday when you get in trouble, that's gonna be
Loud and clear. So you're hoping to spend 42,000 on at least 10 of the radios.
I'm hoping.
This year.
Any questions from?
Could you talk a little bit about the difference between the mobile versus the portable? Like, are they
The
used for
mobiles are actually in the apparatus. It stays in the vehicle.
Okay,
So the truck, for the operator of the truck.
got it.
The portable radios are the individuals that are working on scenes. They have it in their pocket.
Okay.
It's a handheld unit,
Okay,
All right?
okay.
So go on to the fire department vehicles. The engine one is due up for replacement next year, or this coming year.
And I'm assuming we should sort of say this is an urgent need to upgrade over the 3 years?
Yeah,
We don't seem to have a,
we-
There isn't a box on this.
On this,
yeah. Okay,
I'll make a note that it's urgent. Okay.
okay.
we keep the apparatus for 20 years. It's something that ISO, all those people look at. It could be moved into reserves, but this vehicle doesn't fit the town's needs. This vehicle was purchased back when we were still in the old fire station, so it had to be built to fit in the building. And there's no room in the compartments, there's no room for the equipment. We don't have on the truck what should be on the truck. We don't have that issue anymore because we have the new facility. But we're looking to replace this vehicle, and the cost of an engine now, a rescue engine, is about $500,000. And we're most likely gonna have to try to do a lease purchase for 5 years. They let them go out even further now. A lot of communities are going to this because these cost so much money. So that's probably what we'll have to do. But that's what we're
Do we
looking.
break this as
to
an
replace.
urgent as well, or if somebody says, no, not this year, can you survive another year? I mean, it's not us saying that.
Yeah, I can. I'll just document it and have it in the file. Because the truck will be over 20 years old.
That's true.
And it's a frontline piece, so it should be moving down to some reserve status, but we don't even wanna, it doesn't meet our needs, so there's no need to keep it even as a reserve.
Well, I noticed that it only has a $10,000 disposal value.
Yeah.
Can't we find a smaller town who would say, oh, this is a big one?
Well, that typically happens, and it'll go, like the last time when we replaced the ladder truck and got rid of that vehicle, it was a 94. And that went up to some town in northern Maine with 100 people in it. And they have
For them, it was.
50 homes to protect, you know what I mean?
But that's a big gap for you. I mean, if there's anything, you have less than half the money to buy
Yeah.
the vehicle.
Yeah. And obviously, I put the request in as to what I need to be able to cover the purchase, knowing that's not gonna happen, but just to show you, and I know the way we do this, we should have put in, say 25,000 every year for this one vehicle, and we were putting in like 8, wasn't the request, but that's what happened. And now it's up for replacement, and we're gonna be,
So you have a shortfall of
Huge
$250,000.
Well, if you take out the 42,000 for the mobile radios, and then you're down to about 220,000.
Yeah.
And that seems to be an urgent need, and then,
even if you said wait another year, Rick, I still wouldn't be able to buy it the way we've been funding the fund.
yeah, we're gonna need at least probably $300,000, because Rick would like to be able to replace the radios at a minimum over the next 3 years, so you have 500,000 for the truck plus 42,000 a year for the next 3 years. For the radio, we're gonna need about $630,000, and we got 268 plus any future funding, so we got a pretty large gap.
Lease purchase, what do you think that will run?
Well, we would probably try to do it now, the lease purchases back in the day, they'd let you go out like 5 years. Now they even let you do 10, 12 years. But financially, you gotta look at what the rates are.
Now, you don't charge, do you charge a lease purchase to the capital fund?
Yes, we did this with the SCBA's. If you look, the SCBA's, when we purchased those 2 years ago, it was like $210,000, whatever the number was.
Right.
And we did a 3-year lease purchase at, I think it's 76,000 a year, something like that. It was, and that's how we did it, because we didn't have the funds to buy them when it came up to replace them. So with the apparatus, we would probably it would be a pretty big lease purchase type of thing. Of course, you're keeping the truck for 20 years, so you know.
But you would charge, you wouldn't have that in your operating budget.
It would come out of the
Lease
CIP, but typically when they do the lease purchase, they show that, like when we did the air packs, even though we're only paying, I think, the 76 a year, it came out all at once when they do the resolution for the lease purchase, because you have to cover the whole, so I don't know how that works here, because we're talking $500,000
Yeah,
over, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know, interesting.
So I don't know how they make that, when the council does their vote to say, yep, we're gonna buy the truck, we're gonna do a lease purchase,
they're
There'd be a
approving the
deficit.
whole amount.
they'd be approving the whole amount, but only to pay, it breaks out the years, I guess. You're gonna take, each year you're gonna take out 70,000, whatever it is, you know?
Just so, for those of you who never heard of fiscal funding risk and your eyes are gonna flutter and all this kind of wonderful stuff, one of the issues with a municipality in a lease is if they decide in year 2, they can no longer afford the lease, in which case, there's language usually in there about what happens if there's no appropriation in year 2 for the asset you just signed up a lease for, which is the lender has a fiscal funding risk that the town may run out of money, et cetera. But this would be approved by the town council. It would be approved to enter into the lease for 3 years for the whole amount. And usually leases, but that's iffy, would be charged an operating expense, so that'd be part of the operating budget, but apparently municipalities can charge the lease payments to their capital. So if you did a 3-year lease on say a 10-year lease on 500,000, probably $60,000 or $70,000 a year. So we can at least enter into that and not have to fund the rest of the $500,000 up front. In other words,
And we already have these purchases on the books.
correct.
That money's been accounted for though.
It's been,
Even though it's been, it's not a part of that number, you know what I mean? It's already been
Right,
pulled.
instead of hitting the CIP for the 500,000 acquisition cost, we'd be hitting the CIP for 65,000 a year for the next 10 years.
For that one engine.
Yeah, for that one engine. Okay?
okay.
Public Works vehicles, is it? Is that what you got?
Yep, public works vehicles.
There's no new vehicles. We're looking at replacing a 1-ton small dump truck with a plow and a sander. One of the 6-wheel trucks. And we didn't purchase the mini excavator yet. We were gonna purchase that this year, but we need to buy a new sweeper and a truck. And as you can see, the balance says 396, but once we do that, there'll only be 26,413 left in the fund. Those are coming out in the near future. So next year, we're looking at, we should be replacing the Freightliner truck, which is gonna be 150, and then another 75 for the 1-ton. And I'm only gonna have 26 in that fund, plus the excavator, so I just don't see us having the funds. I think we put 100 into the Public Works this past year. But it's, the truck and the 1-ton definitely need to be replaced. I guess we wait to buy the mini, but we spend anywhere from 15 to 19,000 a year leasing an excavator for different jobs, so it's gonna be a cost savings for us to have one if we were to purchase it and not have to hire out that piece of equipment because it's needed so often and frequently. And actually, it's needed, we use it more frequently now just because of, when you get in the road, you can't put a truck beside you and shut the road down. You gotta maintain traffic, so you gotta line everything. You can't do that. But at a minimum, that Freightliner truck 11 and that 1-ton 10 most likely won't take stickers next year, so.
Okay, so 1 and 3, you would.
1 and 3
Would
are
be in the urgent or
urgent,
need?
definitely
Yeah,
urgent.
And 2 would probably drop down to a need?
Yeah,
Okay.
What is the Freightliner? What's the
Well, that's what
cost?
the truck is now.
What's the cost? Oh, okay.
It's 150 for that truck to
150,
replace it, and the 1-ton 75.
Yeah, we'll see this change, but Rick has got this, assuming they're all up to date, and I assume they are. If you look up at the top, what I do going through this is I look at the bottom three, find the ones that he's replacing on the top, which are number 3, number 11, and number 21. It'll give you the acquisition year, and then it should give you the replacement cost. So
Yeah.
you have 150 for the Freightliner, 60 for the John Deere, 75 for the Ford F-450 with the 1-ton plow. So the purchase again would be 285, which, as Rick said, would leave 100 grand if they were all purchased. I don't know if any of these are leasable like the last batch.
It
but-
wouldn't even leave that because we have to replace, in the process of replacing the street sweeper, which is 220. This isn't a part of this. This has been approved already.
Okay.
I'm just showing you this, when it says what the balance is, it's not actual because it's like next month, the council should vote to release for the sweeper, which is 220 from the 396
And that's for the purchase of the sweeper?
years, right? And then,
Ah,
do you see what I'm saying? This already was approved in the last cycle. We just didn't buy it yet because we had to wait for the nitrogen plan to be approved.
yeah, that's probably, I'm just trying to think on how to manage, and you bring up a good point, which is this fiscal year, we're talking about next fiscal year. Right now, you already know you're going to be reducing this by 225 because
This
that's already
account-
been approved.
By the first of the year, well, I don't want to, the town council has to approve the purchase,
Right.
obviously, but it was approved already. But if they approve the purchases, there's only going to be $26,413 left in the CIP for the public works vehicles.
This may be silly, but he brings up a good point, which is between now and the end of this fiscal year, which is not until next
June
August
30th.
1st, yeah, June 30th. He may already have stuff that's approved, and we're getting a current balance today. But Rick's saying,
I'm bringing this up now because this is what happens. Everybody goes, he has $396,000.
you're bringing up an excellent point.
No, he doesn't,
It's a
theoretically.
good point. And I think maybe what we should do is ask people if they're going to be purchasing something in this current fiscal year
Right.
that's going to reduce the budget, that there should be a line showing that.
If we add a column, yeah, which would be the current balance and then projected balance at current year end, which would be June 30th, 2019.
This is how big of a crisis it is right now. And I say this, I'm just telling you the way it is. The current sweeper is parked. We can't, there's no fixing it. It's beyond, it needs so much money put into it. So it's parked. We really don't have, we've been trying to use it, but you can't do much with it. And that new sweeper's 220, 222 or something, you know what I mean? Like, it's a lot of money.
So you've been approved to buy it, but there's still a final vote.
By the council. It was approved through the whole process last year,
Right.
but the town council still has to approve the release of that.
Yeah, I think the easiest way would be
get
to amend the form onto
Yeah, I think
projected.
that's a really good point.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah,
I appreciate
thanks.
you bringing
Yeah.
it up.
Any other questions on that? No?
Ah,
All right,
your even more favorite roadway improvement.
roadway.
Are we gonna have a year where 108, I know it's a state road, but where 108 is like open?
It'll be done in Newmarket by the middle of October.
That's what we've been told.
Everything to the Durham town line will be
Yeah,
done.
which is now everything that's ripped up. I go through it every day.
The Durham end has one more season to go. They just have to overlay and finish the sidewalks.
Well,
But in Durham, from Bennett Road to downtown,
it's a disaster.
it's another year. It's the rest of this year and next season.
Right, and this, I'll get personal here, just so you can see how crazy the municipalities are. They did the same thing last year. I mean, they had the road up for a different reason last year, and the year before that, they had the road up for, so this is 3 years in a row. And I happen to live off Bay Road, okay? And there's only two ways out. It's go north or go south
So
on Bay
one
Road.
year they did the water, 1 year they did the sewer, this year they did the drainage and the sidewalks.
Right, but they did this and then also closed the bridge on Bay Road at the same time.
Yep.
And so when I went into Steve, our town administrator, and said, excuse me, I can't get out of my house. You know, I'm blocked both roads. I can't get north. The answer came back, don't look at us. The state's the one that does 108, and the bridge is in Durham, and they close that for repairs. So we have nothing to do with either of them.
But you could get out of 108, you just have to wait.
Yeah. I know, it's parochial, but it's irritating. I'm just hoping sometime in my lifetime, 108 will be open.
1 more year. Everything will be brand new, there's nothing to replace over there, so there's nothing else they can do.
It does look great.
Does,
So the road plan, we put in extra money last year, which was great. Now we're caught up. I say caught up if we currently keep funding it like you guys have been funding it. We'll be looking good in a couple more years. Give it 3 more years, we should have be able to level fund the road paving program and just keep putting the 260 in there and life will be great.
So I'm assuming, sort of like you said last time, if we're at 325 now, I don't know if you have any more projects this year, but you'll probably dribble this down to
They'll-
260.
They're gonna take 260 out of that, at a minimum, 260.
But you gotta build it up.
Yeah, we got it. That's Rick's
Yeah.
forecasting. I need 260 a year for the next 5 years.
So when you look at the balance between now and next June 30th, they could take 300, 280, whatever it depends what the budget is, what the pricing comes in at, But I'm telling you, if we need to keep putting that 260 in and just make that up, and it'll be level funded, we will be good. We won't have to add to it, we won't have to delete, just it'll be funded. And that's what it is every year. We're finally catching up with this. This is one of the things the town finally caught up with.
Yeah.
Last
put
year
a
was
couple
huge.
hundred.
Few years.
I think it was the town council that changed it. They said, this was only gonna have 155, I think, when it went through you guys. And I think the town council bumped it up to 260, and they gave Greg some money too. for the
Yeah, they did.
Buildings.
That was,
That was a great
Yeah.
thing for the town.
totally agree. But I still think we're about 50% of what we asked for, right? Somewhere in there. But okay, so we need a constant flow of funds there. Anybody else have questions on roadways before we get to sidewalks, which is even worse shape?
we have a lot of interest in sidewalks.
We do. I'm trying to work with Underwood, our town engineer, to come up with a plan and a budget, so we have something for you to look at and see. There's a lot of requests out there for new sidewalks in various areas of town within the downtown, and it would kind of complete a circuit where we have these little sections where you got sidewalk, nothing, and then sidewalk again. And we just want to prioritize those based off traffic counts and pedestrians and
I'm sure it's a hotter ticket now that people see sidewalks going up on 108 saying, excuse me, on the way out of town we have sidewalks, but in town we don't. Yeah.
Just Friday, I received a phone call from the state pedestrian bicycle coordinator who does the planning for the state, and he brought to our attention that there was a resident up at the elderly housing project on 152 Wadley Falls. There's no sidewalks, and I take that route every morning to get to work, and when there's 10-foot snowbanks and people are out there with their scooters and their walkers trying to walk downtown, it's a real traffic hazard.
I can tell you
So,
from what we hear
I think
from
we need
people
to
is
proactive about it.
is up there, the little strip of Grant Road 152, back by the school, the top of Bennett Way to Durrell, even down into Hershey a little bit, the beginning parts of Bay Road down towards Lamprey, New Road, this end of New Road, these are all residents that are, there's a lot of traffic today, and there's a lot of pedestrians, and there's no sidewalks.
Well, and we're redoing the schools, which is probably gonna get more traffic and putting the parking across the street at the high school, so.
So I just put in here because we don't have a plan today, like, in front of us. We know there are a lot of needs and requests out there, and I would say some of them are a high priority or urgent. There really should be a sidewalk from the elementary school to around the corner of the Grant Road, up in those areas.
Absolutely.
The beginning part of New Road, at least up to the fire department, should have a sidewalk. A lot of people walk down there.
Have you set a priority for that? I mean.
Well, that's what I'm-
The sections, that's what
That's
Underwood's
what
doing now?
We're trying to work on a plan and a proposal with budgets, so then we can say, okay, on New Road, it's gonna cost X amount of dollars for a sidewalk, and then we can see what we can afford and make a plan and move forward and show what's a high priority versus a lower priority as far as urgency for traffic and pedestrians and all those things.
Yeah, a question while we're here, and just to connect the dots, you should have gotten this twice probably now, but this was attached to the minutes, and it was also a separate distribution, which is just a list of the capital funds. Okay, if you don't have that, or you may have it in your pile, this gives you a synopsis of what the current balance is on those funds. But I'm looking at this, Rick, and as an example, our sidewalk development fund has 0 in it, even though we have an account for it. But it doesn't have the money coming out for the sweeper as a resolution.
It hasn't been approved yet.
He hasn't brought it to them.
The
yet.
town council has to vote before it shows it. You see what I'm saying?
Gotcha. So it's not carved in
I
stone
can
till
tell
they
you
make the
that I
final
have
vote.
the bids, and I'm writing it all up, and it's, as soon as they can get put on their agenda, it's coming before them.
But so as you look at this, it'll have a current balance as of, it'll say what we added to the funds this year. And then the third column is what has been approved to be taken out for the remainder of the year, which is what Rick was talking about, except he's proposing it and hasn't had a final approval, so we were missing it.
Those ones that it says have come out are only votes that have happened.
Right.
So like I bought a new pickup, that's on there. But the new dump truck hasn't been voted on yet. The new sweeper hasn't been voted on yet.
Right.
We have to wait till July 1 to get here before we can go ask for this stuff, see? So by the time you get your bids and everything, you're in the middle of this process, and I haven't even gone in to get the stuff approved yet.
Right.
So,
But I just wanted to connect the dots with that, so you can sort of look at this as the one-page summary of what's going in and out.
Can I make a planning observation
Sure.
for you? The planning board and the town council are interested, from what I understand, in developing some zoning proposals for the gateways in town, including the northern gateway at Route 108, where we have great infrastructure in place at this point. Same thing on the southern part of Route 108 from downtown to the Midfields town line. Obviously, there's a need for improvements. We're also talking about a third rezoning and have for several years for continuing care retirement community out on Route 152, where the site of the gravel pits. And obviously, that's an area where we don't have sidewalks. And I guess I question from a planning perspective, does it make sense to have an area zoned for elderly housing in an area where you don't have sidewalks? So I hope that in doing our deliberations, that we carefully look at that issue and that we make the, investment in sidewalks, because as the town grows and as the community ages, there's going to be more and more need for sidewalks in those areas. So I think the idea of capitalizing this sidewalk fund makes a lot of sense. I think it's been in existence for how many years now? Probably 3 or 4 years, and never once has any money been allocated for it. So I think it's time that we start looking at that as a community issue.
and one thing that just, it's a separate item, but I'll put it out there, the municipal transportation fund, we can use some of that money to help with sidewalks, and there is money in that account. That vehicle registration fee, the $5,
That's the fund that's 266,597, and that's not one we've mentioned.
That all comes from vehicle registrations.
So we could dedicate the revenue to that source or purpose,
Yeah.
if the town council wanted.
The only other thing just to differentiate, up to this point, we've been talking about replacements, okay? So if you think about whether it's the vehicles that we need to replace and get a new pump truck or whatever. Or we have existing roads, and we need to keep them repaired so we don't have hubcaps flying through town, which they have at times. This is additional sidewalks. So if you think from a capital point of view, we're doing a new capital investment and expanding the sidewalks in town. This is not the maintenance of existing sidewalks. It's building new.
Right.
And it's going to require a new investment versus just replacing an existing piece. Okay?
Stormwater.
And that's Underwood is going to,
Yeah, working with Underwood
On the sidewalk.
on the sidewalk.
on a plan and
That's right.
priority.
I know that there was talk about initiating that process a couple of years ago, but I never heard anything further, so that's good to know that that's on their list of things. Great. Thanks, Rick.
As you know now, we're an MS4 community, which is so wonderful.
Meaning?
It's just, I have a hard time with it, that's all, I'm sorry.
Yeah, but what does it mean for someone who doesn't know what MS4?
Stormwater.
Yeah, okay.
Anything that goes in a catch basin falls out of the pipe into a river. We have to jump through so many hoops now and document and do so many things.
What was the fancy word they used for this? This is for stormwater that is not collected through a normal stormwater vehicle, like a drain or from the sewer department or whatever. This
Yeah,
is
it had nothing to do with-
non-point? Was it non-point?
It's non-point.
Yeah.
Water that falls on the ground and is
To
not
address water
directed.
quality related to non-point source pollution as opposed to what comes out of the pipe at the wastewater treatment plant.
And since we're on Great Bay, and they
It's even a bigger deal.
tend to blame us for all the nitrogen, even though much of it comes from other towns down the
You know,
road.
we have to sweep now a lot more than we used to. We have to buy a bigger, fancier, wicked expensive sweeper, which I think is, I'll keep my comments to myself, I guess. But the thing is, they're making us, we're gonna have to spend a lot of money. But we just started, we're just getting on with this now, and,
I think the 25 grand a year is a placeholder.
you know,
I think it would.
Placeholder
be higher
being,
than
here's a small
25.
amount of money to put there to know you have the issue, but you haven't figured out what it's gonna cost yet. And stormwater is gonna be a huge.
it's, yeah, there's a lot of stuff coming down the pike, and it's not all implemented yet. We're working on it. This just happened to us, and,
July 1st, it went into effect. Come October 1st, we have to file a notice of intent with EPA.
this is such a big
It's
deal,
really
just to
the-
put it in perspective, the communities are hiring a full-time employee just to deal with this.
MS4 is what it is, and it's
It's a
stormwater.
federal.
Federal EPA program.
They're actually putting on a full-time staff person to be able to deal with all the stuff that we have to do now. I'm not saying we're doing that, we're not. We're spreading the love between Greg, myself, and Mike, and Diane, and, but it's a big deal, I guess is.
No.
And we don't have any choice in the matter, it's, here you go, and this is what you're gonna do.
We're located on Great Bay. We're
It's all
the,
about
we're the
fish.
last line of defense before it pours into.
And Rick,
Great Bay.
part of it, isn't it that they have the same regulations for us than they would like for a community in Massachusetts that's a larger community? Isn't that part of it?
It's, yeah, go ahead.
Well, just that the lawsuit that's pending.
Right.
Has to do with the fact that,
Mm-hmm.
was it one day before the new
Mhm.
administration took over,
Right.
that it was passed,
Mhm.
and there are feelings that it was pushed too fast without really looking at
Mm-hmm.
developing a system that would be
Scaled.
fine-tuned for New Hampshire's needs. And there are people who believe that it's, they just basically took the Massachusetts model that had already been approved.
Right.
And approved it, and now they're applying it to New Hampshire. Of course, New Hampshire is very different than Massachusetts. We're
Right.
pretty much, a rural state in many respects, and
Yeah.
we have a lot of open space and conservation areas, and we don't have a lot of impervious surfaces
Right.
in comparison to metropolitan Boston. So Amy's right, that the argument is that why should we be following a model that Massachusetts is following? There's only 3 states in the nation that are governed by EPA on MS4. The other states have taken over the programs, so there's interest in having New Hampshire do the same, so that New Hampshire DES will administer the program and develop standards that are more appropriate for New Hampshire communities, and that's basically the issue at hand. But meanwhile, the town's moving forward, because we're gonna have to deal with stormwater
Slowly.
Right.
slowly but surely. It's not a problem that's gonna go away.
Right.
So we're following a parallel track and moving forward with the MS program.
Exactly. Thank you.
I know I have been here for about 15 years and experienced the 200-year floods we had in a 3-year period, which I don't know if any of you've been here, but if you were, you can remember what Newmarket was like trying to get into town and out of town for, about a week and a half. Everything was closed down because of the floods. That's what we sort of mean by non-point water. It's stuff that can't be handled by the regular system.
Can I make just a recommendation to the committee? At one point, we did have funding levels of $50,000 a year, and I see that, last year that money was cut back, if I'm not mistaken, but I think it would be appropriate for the committee to consider doubling the amount each year, so that when the time comes, we have monies available so that we can do some best management practices and stormwater projects. So that would be my recommendation from the planner.
Okay. You're saying up it from 50 to 100?
No, well, I was saying 25 to 50, but
Oh, is that 25 now?
it's 20, that's what Rick is recommending.
Oh, okay, I was still on sidewalk, sorry. Let me flip. Gotcha. Okay.
Would you concur with that, Rick?
I believe, yeah, I know what's been going on with it, so
I know.
just,
Well,
you know.
it's not gonna go away, we
No, I
have to
know,
deal with
I
it,
know.
so.
It's,
And it's gonna be more expensive, it's gonna be more expensive if EPA is involved than if we had DES.
personally, for me, it's more important to fund purchasing the new plow truck and the fire truck
Hmm.
than that, personally, but that's just, you know what I'm saying?
Anyway, that's my suggestion.
Just smiling, remembering the bridge that connected,
Let's,
that floated down to our dock last
oh,
time.
I thought you were gonna talk,
Oh, no,
the
there was,
bridge over
Don't bring
Trevor
that up, I
Road.
think everyone forgot about it.
yeah. It was- But the bridge between Bryant Rock and the mill,
Cover Bridge,
The
yeah,
cover-
Cover Bridge, yeah. It's probably
that,
still down.
that floated down 2 miles to
Can
our
I-
dock
Yeah.
west.
Oh, that's
It's-
on that, and across the river.
I just wanna impart one message, this isn't just about flooding
know.
and, what's necessary for.
Nitrogen levels.
It's nitrogen and water quality and,
It's
So
all about the
there's-
fish,
it's
the eels, and the birds.
Yeah,
and the
there's
integrity
eel
of
grass
Great
and
Bay.
Smelts, and the salmon, and the clams.
fun and games. Okay,
Okay, that's my suggestion.
gotcha. Well, I think
Thanks. Hurry up, Greg.
until we meet
Thanks,
again.
Rick.
Got stuff to do.
Just think how quick this was. Remember we used to take 2 days with you? Yeah, it's working out well.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The floor is yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon,
Good afternoon.
Chief.
Is this even on?
I don't know.
We're not recording notes.
Yeah, we are,
We are? Oh.
I don't see the,
sorry. I don't see a light on.
I
We
don't-
don't have any lights on here.
well, you have a red on the mic, so I
You are
think
recording right now.
that, okay.
He's actually watching this. Thank you.
We're good to go? Okay. For those of you who can't see, we got a thumbs up from our video expert
So he's good to
and
double
sound
check.
engineer. You're on.
So, there are two items for our capital program. One is dispatch and one is police vehicles. Those are the only two items we have for capital programs. I don't know how you want to do this, if you want to go through them line by line, or if you want me to talk about expected projects this year, however you'd like for me to handle it.
Well, handle it the way I don't think we need to go through every vehicle.
Sure. So I don't plan on any projects for dispatch this year. This is an off year for purchases, for anything major in dispatch. I do plan on making the purchase of 2 vehicles.
You did upgrade dispatch this year, though, as you were telling
We did,
us,
yes,
right?
and actually, thank you. Let me touch upon that. So we took advantage of the ability to purchase Motorola radios at a discounted rate of 50% off. We were able to upgrade our police primary radio, our fire primary radio, and next Monday, our backup consulate, which is the catch-all if we have a major incident up on Great Hill. We have a backup radio that is in our attic at the police department that can serve as a backup radio. We were able to replace all 3 of those, and we were also able to put in a structure on Great Hill to protect our investment where our radios sit. It's kind of like a Reed's Ferry shed. It is insulated. It has an air conditioner in there to keep the computers cool in the summer, and also it has a heat pump so it keeps them warm in the winter. Protects us from varmint and vandalism, as well as protects the community of Durham. Durham has their repeater system on Great Hill as well. So we've put their computer system and repeater system inside the structure as well. We did all of these, the 3 consulates in the structure, for a total of $19,390. Originally, we were looking at over $40,000.
Yeah, is this on, you have on page 16, which I think is the 3rd or 4th page on the chief stated the fire base radio 2018 and the digital base radio, those are what you were talking
Yes.
about?
Yes.
For about 20,000?
Yeah. So that's what we replaced this
Right.
past year.
So just to get used to the forms, where Rick is saying, gee, I had this 225,000 expense I haven't had approved, and so we haven't bought it yet. The chief has gotten and listed on his asset list on page 16, those 2 new acquisitions, which you see year acquired, number 5 and number 6. Just so you can connect the dots on how all these little pieces go together. Okay, thanks.
For this next coming year, for fiscal year 18-19, I plan on going before the council with the request to purchase, to replace 2 vehicles, 2 existing vehicles that we have. One is a 2014 line car, and when I say line car, when you think of the term line car, think of a black and white car that you would see the patrol officers responding to calls in. That is a line car. And I did a project request form. I'm sure everyone has it in front of them, or has a copy of it. Okay. So this vehicle currently has 117,000 miles on it. And it's important that you know, when I actually get my hands on a new car, it will be a 2019 vehicle that will be going into play at this time next year, meaning I will be able to get it on the road at this time next year. So the mileage will be up around 130,000 by then. This is important. We try to replace the vehicles every 3 to 4 years, the line cars. We try to keep them between 100 and 125,000. We're going to be over on mileage with this vehicle. It's important to switch them out for for obviously reasons, the safety of the officers and safety of the commuting public, as well as the image of the department and the town. We don't want to have our cars all beat up and banged up. We take a lot of pride in our vehicles. We take good care of them. So the cost to replace a line car is approximately this rate, $48,000. And that's a brand new car with brand new setup with equipment. This car, we would not be able to extrapolate any items from an old car like we did this past year. Every couple of years, we get fortunate, and we can take equipment from an older car and put it into a newer car. Then every couple of years, we can't do that for certain reasons. Next year, we're not going to be able to do that. The second project is I'm going to be replacing a really old 2005 Crown Victoria that we just picked up from Auto Excellence this morning again. We had to just put I think today was an alternator and a ground, a wired ground, ungrounded wire. So anyway, this is a car that we do not allow to leave town. We keep it in town in case it breaks down. We intended on getting rid of the vehicle last year. I was forced to keep the vehicle in the fleet. We had been asked to put a school resource officer in the elementary school, which took a line car out of the fleet to be put in front of the elementary school. So that left our detectives with no vehicles to use. So we ended up keeping this old 2005 to try to get us through another year. So I plan on getting rid of this and sending this to the boneyard. I don't intend on giving it to another department. It needs to just go away.
The $500 suggests that.
Yeah. And we're lucky to get that sometimes. Sometimes sometimes you break even. But going back to the first project car, the black and white line car, when we get rid of these vehicles, our options are this. We can either give it to another department within the town, whether it's Public Works or the Water Department or Code Enforcement, or we can give it to auction in Concord. We really don't make a lot of money. I think it's usually between $500 and $1,000 if we send it to auction. We usually, as a community, get our best bang for the buck if we give it to another agency within the town. So it's my recommendation that this car go to the fire department next year. They're driving, I believe, a 95 Crown Victoria, or maybe a 2000 Crown Victoria that we gave them a long time ago.
And then that asset would transfer to their books when it goes
Correct, yes.
What about just bringing it up to the recycling center and scrapping it? Is there any value
I
associated
don't know.
with it?
I couldn't speak to that. I know there's some cost with making sure it doesn't look like a police car once we get rid of it, because there's some liability there. So
Should've laughed.
I kind of either like to keep them in town. Mike Hoffman's taking the car that we just got rid of, and he's painting it all white, and it's being cleaned up. It's not going to say police on it. I don't want it to look like a police car because I don't want people to confuse him as a police officer.
You have
For his safety as well as...
You have to degauss the police car.
You do, yes. Delouse the police car. But anyway, those are the two projects that I intend on going in front of the council for. I did add one line to the dispatch communications equipment this year, which is line 11. And it's video recording monitor. And this is a new line that I've never had, or Chief Sear never had, in the capital reserve. And we thought it was important because, at some point we are going to have to replace the video recording system. And it's a big expense that I think we could pay for it over time. It doesn't need to be replaced this year or next year or the year after, but I think within the next probably 7 or 8 years, we're going to have to replace it.
Is there more use expected on that as a result of the improved security and the monitor and the tapes in the schools? And is that expanding or?
No, there's two separate entities when it comes to the monitoring system. Greg is responsible for, and I don't mean to speak out of school, Greg, but Greg's responsible for the system at the school. And I'm responsible for the system at the PD. They're two separate systems. They cannot intertwine whatsoever. Can't happen for security reasons at the police department. Greg's equipment's probably a little bit more expensive because he is monitoring not only town hall, he's monitoring doors, he's monitoring the school, he's monitoring school doors, alarms. Mine is specific to booking room, recording system, surveillance outside the police department, interview room. So. Questions? I can answer.
We're not going to CCTV like they have in England or anything?
No.
That's good. Big Brother is
Do they have
watching.
that?
On every street,
Yeah.
they wired London pretty much.
Thank God we're not London. One question, did Durham share in any cost?
I'm sorry.
Did Durham, the town of Durham, since they have their repeater?
Do you know, that's a good question, and I'm not the person to answer that. From what I understand, and I've been told that a long time ago, it was a gentleman's agreement between the two communities where we do mutual aid for them, they do mutual aid for us. If a catastrophic event happened in Durham at UNH, we have the ability to take over and dispatch for them. If a catastrophic event happened here, they have the ability to take over and dispatch for us. The repeater being placed on the hill was before my time, and I don't know if we're taxing them, so to speak, for that equipment up there.
Shares.
Well, I
Yeah,
think
and I think-
Newfields is kicking in again, right?
Newfields is kicking in, yes.
Yeah, but they left us for a couple of
I was
years.
just talking about the facility up on the
Yeah, and I don't believe that they're paying anything. I think that would be a conversation that the
And
town administrator.
their dispatch operates independently, or is their dispatch with Stratford County?
Their dispatch is through Stratford County now. And UNH operates independently.
Yeah. That's a complicated situation.
Sure is.
For those, again, just this, we're talking some history, but Newmarket, for good reasons, has sort of prided itself in its dispatch capability. And in prior years, tried to get other towns. Newfields used it, and I think, I don't know if Durham used it at some point.
Durham, I'm sorry, Newfields and Stratham, and at one time Nottingham Fire.
Right. And because it's provided at the county level too, but it's not quite as quick in response, and you end up getting notified second potentially, where we're notified the same time Concord's notified, if I'm explaining that.
Sure.
partially
Yep.
correct. And then at some point CIP and a few other people said, gee, are the towns paying us for their use of our dispatch service? And the answer was no, so we ended up putting some charges in, and when we increased those charges, all the towns decided to leave and left us with the whole expense of our dispatch system. And now one of them is at least back, Newfields.
And I'm working on others, so.
That would be painful.
Okay. Thank you. And you're upgrading the Crown Vic to,
From a 2005 to something newer, shinier. That Crown Vic will end up being another line car. Instead of having an unmarked car, it'll be a line car to be used for patrol purposes.
gotcha. Sure.
Kyle, on your
Please do.
forms for your equipment for the,
And everybody should feel free to
Dispatch.
ask any questions you want.
what does GH stand for?
Great Hill. So Great Hill is where,
Gotcha.
does everyone
Yep.
know where Great Hill is in town here?
Yep.
That's where
The
our
tower.
tower is.
And to be nasty,
Thank
there's
you.
an E typo where
I know,
all
I
the
saw
others
it.
were. Okay,
Multitasking here.
good. All right. Anything else, Chief?
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. And you feel the fund, at least the funding looks like you're not in urgent need.
Well, the other thing too, and I think it's important, and maybe I run things a little differently, but I think this should not be the Bible. You should be able to look at this every year and look at your needs. for example, I'm scheduled, not this year, but next year, to replace an air conditioner. It's a $6,000 air conditioner. But if I look at the service on that air conditioner, if it's working fine,
Right.
I'm not gonna replace the $6,000 air conditioner just to replace it.
Right.
When we
It's-
assess it and see if the need is there.
Right.
Certain
It's a
things like
reevaluation.
portable radios and cruiser radios that become antiquated and unsupported, those you have to fix, or replace. But things like air conditioners and I think you need to reassess it every year.
Well, that and due to the lack of funding Newmarket's given to the capital reserve over time, you've got to stretch the use of equipment a little bit. Yeah, totally understand.
And that's part of the process, is to evaluate what you had last year. Is it still applicable? If not, what changes need to be made? So it's a process.
Yep.
Great, thank
All
you.
right.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Chief.
Yep.
I think we have a break.
Enjoy it.
We're right on schedule. Thank you.
My goodness.
Thanks.
And
You want me to talk about the master plan? We got a few minutes.
um,
I'm happy to do that. Or,
we have 3 p.m. police and then 3:45.
we're making lots of progress.
Is the Veterans Committee going to be today, or?
I don't know. I received an email from Phil Nazaro last week saying, oh gee, I didn't realize they were due so soon. Would you give me the opportunity to submit something? And in years past, we've, because it's a volunteer committee, we've offered to accommodate his schedule. So I advised him that he could stop by and we'd try to fit him in where we could. And he's welcome, and I don't know if he's coming or not.
Okay, but we don't have a sheet for him or anything.
Not yet.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't received it.
And so the next is Greg. Does anybody, I could use about a 5-minute break, but other than that, are we ready to rock and roll in
Yeah.
5 minutes? Thank you, sir. Unless anybody is not here, you'd be comfortable in another room somewhere? let's go back in session. Greg, you're on.
You go
Perfect
you
time.
gotta sit up here. No?
I can sit here in the comfortable chair.
Oh, okay.
So I'll start off with our, in the order that you have, which it's, looks like page 25. In this particular one, tomorrow's the schools, which starts off at Beach Street. So, we acquired Beach Street, last
Stuck yourself.
year ago, July. And we did a complete analysis on the facility. The $89,000 that you see there are to bring the facility up to a current level to deal with things like ADA access on doors, a fire detection system that's actually monitored, heating system replacement, air conditioning. So the air conditioning unit in there, to give you an idea, is an old through-the-wall unit made by GE. It's currently at least 25 years old. So it's not only highly energy efficient, it sounds great. You can't hear anybody talk when you turn it on. So these are all based on that assessment of that particular facility. As you can see, we've got quite a bit of things that we're listing out. But we're looking at it as it's an $89,000 expense if you do it all at once, and then you can take it and break it down per year and do updates to it, one project at a time. What's that?
I said, no wonder we got a missing person.
It's actually not that bad of a facility. It really isn't that bad. I really, it's got a lot of value to it.
That's the Walt's old senior home?
Senior center.
Yeah,
The Senior Citizen Center is what it used to be called. Now we just call it the Beach Street building.
Or the new Newmarket Railroad Station.
Call it what you want.
Ain't gonna happen.
Do you know where we're all talking about? Okay.
We went by it last week.
If you don't, please ask the question, because even I don't know some of these things.
The condo association rents it for their annual meeting.
Who does?
It is currently rented as a
Condo
facility.
association.
Condo.
Yeah, there've been,
You don't go to the library?
till we found out it was Walt.
It's not in bad shape.
I
It
don't
just
know.
needs
She
certain
put this in
things to
my
bring it
box
up to
because
standards. I mean,
Yeah.
for instance, there's no
I have the
ADA
other ones
openers,
on
so
mine.
you want to be able to have
comparing.
openers to better access through it. The only one that really kind of hangs out there is there's a floor crack that goes across the entire slab, and it's opened up. So investigation of why and then repair to that would be. But I think it's relatively stable. I don't think it's going anywhere, but it's one of those things that you need to look at.
Yeah, but on a scale of 1 to 10, it would be in third place if you looked at the rec department versus town hall versus Beach Street.
I'm not even sure I'd get it onto third place yet,
Okay. It's not close.
because I think we have other facilities that have a lot more needs than that.
Okay. No, sure.
Greg,
Feel
Yeah.
free
what
to
is
ask anything.
ESCO funding?
So this building, it was assessed, and to be honest with you, because we don't utilize the building a lot, we maintain minimal heat in there, and of course, we're not using a lot of lighting. It's not a high-use building. I don't have a lot of energy consumption. And in order to do those kind of projects, you really need energy consumption to be able to reduce it. And the cost is so small in that building right now that I don't have there's not enough funding there to be able to actually make a return on that particular investment through an energy savings program.
Okay, so even though it could be more efficient, it will save us 3 cents a year, and why make the investment of $10,000 worth of
I mean, I bet that air conditioner that's in there probably, if I was to make a guess, I bet that thing didn't run 5 hours, 6 hours the entire summer, just because it's not utilized heavily, and it's only used rec side as a spillover facility, or the school side as a spillover facility. People do lease it. We've had some condominium associations, things like that, utilize the building. But if you look at it, that's 2 hours, and it just doesn't have that high usage. So
And you didn't have a priority here. There was a blank space on the form. I'm assuming from what
sorry.
you...
Desirable.
Yeah, I'd go with the D on that.
Well, which
Well,
D?
there's two Ds.
Yeah, I
The,
thought we took care of that last year.
no, the new
for
one
some
says just D. We used to have D1 and D2. And
Yeah.
The new form came out with just AD.
reason. Well, I understand. I'm asking our planner, is it desirable or deferrable? Because,
I'd go with the desirable.
We're still using this system.
okay,
There's two Ds, you're right.
if we use the class without the word, we'd have
So
it.
class 3 or class 4? Class 3 is desirable,
I would
class
go with the
4 is
class
deferrable.
3.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I'm not a big fan of deferred of anything. Because it
Because
costs
it
you
has
more
an
over the long
it
period.
implies that you're not managing your assets properly.
yeah, well, D is shorter than class 3, but if we're gonna use D, we should at least have some modifier that it's a D3 or a D4 if we have two Ds for desirable versus
All
deferrable.
right, if you want me to change it back to
Well,
D1, D2, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So we had D1, D2 last year.
Just to know the difference. Because there is a decent difference between desirable and deferrable. And actually, they're not mutually exclusive.
Break out the source and the non-D word.
It still means we're not gonna do it because we haven't done the U's and the
You
ends
want-
yet, but.
Let's agree, D1, D2?
Yeah.
Okay, and D1 is desirable and D2 is deferrable. Is everybody on
This would
board
be a
with that?
D1.
What?
D1,
And this one is D1.
correct.
If you want a new one, we can use, not in
No.
my lifetime, you know.
Getting back to acronyms, what does ESCO stand for?
Energy Service Contracting Organization.
All right, is that a national organization?
No, that's an acronym for a type of organization.
Okay.
For example,
Energy
we're doing this for
saving-
the school in theory, right?
We're doing it for the school
Okay.
in town.
So we've asked people who provide equipment and energy savings to come in and tell us how much we can save in our operating expenses if we use this new equipment and if we get an
I
arrangement
just
with
wanted
them.
to know what it stood for. Contracting or
Organization.
conservation?
So, to give you an idea, Train, Siemens, Amoresco, are all different companies that get involved in that type of
So it's
work.
like LEED or something like that.
EEI, Energy Efficient Investments, happens to be the company that we're engaged with.
Just trying to make it easy for the
Well,
reader to know what it means.
well, just to be aware of it, because we don't think it's significant yet unless somebody comes back with anything. But we're asking these people as a result of doing the school renovations, and Greg also in town, to have these consultants come in. And the theory would be, they can come in and say, gee, if you're spending $100,000 a year in electricity, we can put this equipment in. It will save you the cost of that equipment, at least, if not more, on your operating budget. So we'll come in and place the equipment, you'll now be able to pay us from the savings that you generate from that $100,000.
We try to make it a net zero impact to taxpayers by doing it. That is the ultimate goal. Sometimes you have to work that a bit to be able to make it more as desirable as possible. But there will be more to come on that actually very shortly to the town side. I had the preliminary numbers given to me last week. I met with the company and went through that whole process last week. We have about almost $2 million worth of projects identified through that process right now.
Yeah,
But there's a lot more to it than that. There's a lot of other stuff that I gotta put together, so I'm meeting this week with them to try to get to the next step where I can actually make a presentation.
it has two uses. One is really useful, which is actually saving people money. The second use is to change where it's booked in your books by
It becomes a
reducing
funding
your,
mechanism.
reducing your operating expenses, but looking for capital to pay for it. So it's an accounting technique that may make you look better for the short run, but you're really not saving money. And Greg was-
You're saving money, but you're taking the savings and utilizing that to pay for the,
equipment that you
the
just
work
got
that
to
you have to
save
have
the money.
done.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So the next item I have is the library, and it's a new entry area and pedestrian enhancements. There has been some preliminary preliminary sketches, not designs, that have been done for this. I did a cost analysis for the library on the project, and come up to about $79,000 to do this particular project, which would, it's again, the final design work is not done yet, but the preliminary work and everything has been completed, so that cost analysis is pretty accurate.
Isn't there a landscape architect who's working on it?
There is right
Right.
now, yes.
Is this all they need, or is this just part of and next year we'll do this piece?
This is to do all of those pedestrian upgrades to the front side of the building, creating that ADA parking, proper ramping, a little more aesthetically pleasing entrance.
And that will not have to be changed from some future project that you'll say, gee, we're putting a new roof on, we gotta tear down the entrance and redo
No.
it or anything
It's a
like that.
complicated situation out there with
I
the
know.
trust and the town.
Does the trust pay for this, or is this one we're paying for?
I can't answer that particular question at this time.
It's like the elephant in the room.
Oh, I know.
Design on the original sketches that were done?
My cost analysis was based on the sketches that were done. There are some things that I had to work on to be able to make that, for instance, ramping and things like that I know have to be taken care of. I created a spreadsheet that actually shows the cost analysis, how I broke it down per construction aspects to the whole project. So I do have that if anybody wants to take a look at that at some time.
Isn't the history, if I remember, the history of the library, it was donated to the town by the mill?
It was by the merchant who lived across the street from the mills. It's its own Carnegie library in the state.
And there is a
Only
separate,
in the state? Is that what you just said?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Non-Carnegie.
and there is
Non-Carnegie.
a separate trust fund that helps pay for some of the library's facilities that's not town money. So we don't fund it, and the trustees of the library, and so some of the discussion that happens in a dark room somewhere, and I'll never know who the perps are, is, gee, we have to do this to the library, can we get the trust fund to pay for it so it's not using town money, or is it town's operations? We basically pay for the operations of the library. But the improvements to the library is a question as to whether the town pays or there's money in the trust fund to pay, et cetera. Is that close enough,
Yeah,
Judy?
it's complicated to do that.
We did, in that $79,000 that I projected, I do have some design fee costs carried in that number. So, but it breaks it down to, right down to earthwork and landscaping and concrete materials and forming and all of those items.
And is this a D1 or a D2?
I guess that would depend on who you ask on that particular one.
Well, you have to make a decision for this form, and then we have to make a decision whether we
I would
approve.
say it would be a D1 because it's very desirable.
Okay.
And I think I would
It's
get
also
into
a
big trouble
D2.
if I said it needed to be deferred.
Yeah. It's a D1 that's also a D2. Then maybe we just make it double Ds and
let's-
move on. That's,
It's gonna be difficult
keep
for
it
this
simple.
particular project because several pieces of it kind of rely on the other piece to be done. For instance, the ramping has to be done before I can build the landscaping kind of thing, so, but there's pieces that kind of overlap some areas, so.
That's what I meant about the ramp.
yeah, it's the same thing I was making. I don't want to,
The side, the walkway, you have to go through there.
The hard part is when you do break some of these things up, you do increase your costs.
yeah, well, that was the whole point. I don't want to end up paying for the same hill twice. And when you start piecing out a project that should be done for $300,000, one-shot deal, and do everything you need, and you do it over 5 years, you end up saying, oh, gee, that wasn't right, let's take that out that we just paid for 2 years ago and redo it because we were off by a foot or this or what the new construction is.
I think the hard part whenever doing like a cost analysis not based on a hard set of plans, that somebody could add a fountain in. And now it's gonna cost me $30,000 to put a fountain in. So, those are the kind of hard part. Based on the sketches and things that I know have to be done, this is how I came to that figure.
Just a quick question, an ex-member of CIP whispered in my ear something about the back of the bandstand is eroding or,
Yeah,
okay.
and I do have money.
Is that
it's
covered in
basically
here?
the dirt is kind of sliding down the hill is what it's coming down to. Yes, is exactly what's happening. So we do have money that we've now put away to do work on the bandstand. And actually this year, one of the things I've got to do is I've got a piece of roofing that's popping up. So it's not a big chunk of money, but it's better than what we had from prior. So I do have to do some roof repairs to that, which is going to take up probably most of that money.
Okay. Anything else about the lab?
I've got more library stuff.
Yeah, I know.
So in the library, we're looking at doing some plaster work. You can see it's about $66,000 worth of work in there, and that is just to continue on to repair the plaster, the wall damage, and painting as we go through. Some of it's been done, but some of it's decorative, and you can really go into a very expensive level of decorative. It depends on how you want. When I did my estimates, I based it on what I would call a standard methodology of making repairs to it, not tearing it all down and having, somebody come in and recreate every inch of it, but repairing and replacing sections that may need it.
Does any of this have to do with the pole dancing place that's on the 3rd floor of the library? Or?
If you're talking about the round room that's up there,
Yeah, with the pole.
I don't know if I'd call it the pole dancing room.
Well, there's a pole right in the middle of it. isn't
There is one in the middle that supports that piece of building.
If
but-
you're not aware, there's a 3rd floor to the library.
I've actually never been there, so this is new information.
It's actually a really cool.
It is, and
It's unfortunately
Sorry
just
about
not
that. That's how I
relatively
remember it.
accessible. The stairs don't meet requirements and things like that. So
you know the wood flooring in the high school? This is a wooden room, right,
yes,
on top of the library, so it could vaporize in a fire. And it's all wood, and it's got a pole, and it's inaccessible. We found it when we went on a tour, 3 years ago? I think it was the first time
Mr. Chair, I cannot endorse the vaporization of a space at this particular moment. And it's actually kind of a cool room. They used to give band concerts up there.
There are many secrets of Newmarket. Okay.
So this is painting and plastering, which has nothing to do with the room that was recently just discussed.
The useful ones, right? Okay.
The next item, some of the slate roof has been done at the library. I had a recent assessment done on this. This represents kind of repairing and replacing sections of the roof that need to be continued on. So for instance, if you go up through that particular round room, you can actually turn around on the stairwell and you can look through the roof gaps and see the outside. So that's taking care of fixing those things and replacing roofs where we have to replace roofs. So it's $116,300 worth of it. Unfortunately, a slate roof is not an inexpensive, and there's not a ton of companies that get into that, that do slate roofs. It's more of a bit of a specialty thing.
Well, one of the questions I have about the library before I think we can make any decisions at some point is we have 3 projects. The only money we have is $77,000, which we're talking about as the town's capital reserve for the library.
Correct.
Okay. We don't know what the trust fund balance is, which is mystical, magical. I don't think it's there. And where?
It's not here.
No, I know.
No, but,
It's not in the town.
Right, and
It's not a
I don't know if
town.
it's 100,000 or 300,000 or 500. But
what they plan to spend.
it seems to me we should be aware of that and I don't know how they resolve which of these projects hits the trust fund. I think it's a Jets and Sharks match at the end of the season as to who pays for this. But I'd hate to recommend that we pay for all this out of the town's funds if some of these improvements and repairs should be coming out of the library trust fund. I don't know how that gets adjudicated, if I had to use a big word instead of those little small ones I like so much. I
I
don't know.
think in years past, we said this was a town administrator question.
Yeah,
And,
but-
perhaps he can talk with the library trustees and head librarian.
yeah, if in the next week or two, we can just find out if if the trustees of the library are saying, not my job, good luck to you in the future, town, it's all yours, versus we'll pay for one of these and you guys pay for two of them. Because we're actually talking real money.
What's that?
We're talking real money here on these
We
three
are
small
talking real money,
projects.
yes.
Yeah.
Now, for instance, this particular building, since that's the last one for this building, I wanted to touch upon, that is one of the buildings where we're gonna actually have the ability to do some upgrades to certain mechanical systems that can be paid for by our ESCO-type funding formula. So for instance, the lighting, if you've been in there, the giant lights pendant down from the ceiling, they're not efficient whatsoever. And we have the ability to convert those existing fixtures into an LED fixture, and it actually shows a payback of, I think it was like 6.7 years on a thing that has over 100,000 hours of life expectancy. So not too bad. So those are kind of things that you.
Well, that would be useful for the town, because the town does pay for the operating budget, and that would be the operating budget of the library.
Correct.
Not the trustees.
Correct. I just bring it out because you wanted to know about the.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is $300,000, it's in 3 projects, it's not chump change. And I'd love to get a definitive answer of when the trust fund's used versus when the town's CIP is used. And we've tightened up a lot of the loose ends over the past 3 or 4 years, but this is one that's just out there in the mystical, magical land of Froggy the Gremlin, and nobody ever gives us a straight answer to it.
There's gotta be trust documents somewhere that.
Yeah, but,
Yeah, but they're
but.
pretty cryptic.
Yeah, they're cryptic, and it's,
So it's hard to tell what the trust fund has covered previously?
yeah, plus they don't, it's not a town fund, so,
Right, but I know some of the trust funds paid for the leak that was there,
yeah,
the really bad leak,
roofing.
and they had to re-roof.
okay.
Yeah, when that happened last year.
Okay. So those 3 projects of the library.
Correct. The next one is kind of a project that Diane and I are working on, which is the McKellen Dam. As you know, we're working towards, we're in the design phase right now, and we'll be looking at, I think March, it goes out to voter approval for a bond for this project, and it is to change it from a gate system to a spillway system is the preferred method. There's been a lot of meetings and a lot of design work and the committee to put that together. You'll notice the balance is $9,148, which shows kind of little since I'm talking $1.3 to $3 million. Just so you'll know, the reason that balance is so low is because we've used a lot of the funds to pay for the engineering work that is in progress right now.
Yeah, but we only put 50 grand in there to begin with, so.
We had a hundred
We
and,
had
What-
100,
was it
Was it
178 sticks in my head, but I'd have to go back to my last, oh, wait a minute.
But-
They
there
have
you
it.
go. But we're in final design and engineering at this point. We have a contract for 100.
We had 128,468 at the end of, for fiscal year 17-18, right? Yes,
Well,
without the added funding going in.
the balance as of 7/1/2008 was a negative $40,000.
Right, and that's because we
Mm,
entered
overjoyed.
into
Yeah.
the contract
Right,
in
that-
anticipation that we would get another 50,
Funding.
or whatever we got.
Yeah, it's
And-
signing the contract before you have the money.
We were advised that it was
I know.
perfectly acceptable.
No, I mean, it's what we had to do, but
So needless to say, we have $9,100.
it's not a good
currently in
thing to
that
have a
account.
negative balance in your fund. That sort of means you stole from Peter to pay for, which we can't do because we have individual accounts.
So,
Yeah.
this is to talk about that, this is that project that we have, or we're working on right now, and like Diane said, we're in the final design phases. And hopefully, everything gets approved, and we'll move forward with construction next year.
We'll be receiving 30% plans from the engineer at the end of this week, so 30% progress plans. And we're meeting with the stakeholders, the various property owners who are impacted by the project, because there's some design issues that have come up that we need to consult with them.
Is this a full town expense, or is there any
Oh, no
grants?
money, no grants for this one. There's lots of money out there to remove dams. Well, there was, I don't know if there still is, but there was. But there's virtually no money available for actual capital improvements to repair dams.
So do you have an estimated completion date?
We're hoping by the end of 2019 that the
Yes.
project will be done.
I think,
It's
I'm trying to
pretty
remember
fast
off
track.
the top of my head, I'm sorry, but I think it's like October of 19.
October. We have to schedule it at such a time that we don't interfere with fish runs and
And the spillway system that we have in our design has a very, very long lead time, so.
it's going to take 6 to 8 months to order the parts, the gateway, the gate
Spillway.
system.
Right, but we don't have any arrangement with the people who rely on the dam to keep water off their properties to help contribute to
It
this
is not a
expense.
flood control dam.
I understand. And the upriver people and the wear and tear doesn't compensate us. We're just at, unfortunately, the end of the river, and we have the
We're at the
dam.
end of the line.
It is what it is.
Correct.
But the 1.3 to 3 million,
That's
you
very
can drive a bit
preliminary.
of a truck through that. When is it going to?
It is, and that's actually the numbers that we've had for the last few years. We have a number drilled down a little bit better than that at
Under
this point.
3?
But
At
It's
least
about
it's
$2
not.
million.
yeah, it's about 2 million.
Okay, so it's not going to be over 3.
No.
Okay, that's my.
Well,
When a number stays there for 3
Depending
years, I
upon
have a
whether we
concern
get the
whether
vote
it's
next
growing
March or
in the
not.
dark like a mushroom.
Yeah, voter approval pending.
But we have buy-in from the Department of Environmental Services on the design approach, and we're working with the stakeholders to get their buy-in. Hopefully, we'll get their support and move forward with the project.
Okay, you said the due date for the kind of final plan that he thinks around 2 million is,
Say November 2019.
that's just for the final plan.
And that all, it depends on, if everything falls into place
The
according to the plan.
spillway is one of the moving targets, that just timing of how long it actually is going to take, because it's made for.
Next year's
The project.
CIP, we should have pretty close to a real number than what the exact plan is.
Oh, we'll have.
We will know by then, hopefully. We'll go out to bid next spring, and we'll have the hope is we'll have a construction contract underway by July 1st of 2019.
Okay?
So it's a really fast-track project.
You heard Chief True mentioning about the air conditioning at the police department. As you notice, you can see I have it there, actually in my CIP, and you'll notice it isn't, we're not talking anything for next year, because there's no reason. And I always would, just like he said, we'd reassess whether or not we need to replace all of that equipment in one shot, or in the next 3 years. We'll assess those. Because of age, we do assess it differently. We do it year by year. Instead of saying, okay, we're good for 5 years, because when you start to get stuff that's 25 years old, year by year can make a big difference. So that's that. And that's it for the town facilities. although there seems to be,
Was there
wait a
anything
minute,
missing,
I'm missing
Greg?
something here. Where's my town hall?
I haven't seen Town Hall.
It's Saturday,
Sean, as usual, has filled up a
Actually, I
bunch
don't
of
remember getting anything on
pages.
the town hall.
yeah, I sent a big one out for town hall. Yeah, but it's not in my printing thing here.
No, it's not in
That's
mine
why I
either.
wanted to have you check them.
Could have been, looks like there's several
Okay.
missing from the print list, but that's,
Okay, can we get together after the meeting, Greg, and you can go through it? And
yeah.
tell me which ones are missing, and you and I need to coordinate.
I
it,
can
and
talk
I
about what I know is missing if you'd like.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
give us a hint, sure.
I'm happy to
and
do
then I'll
that.
get the forms out to you.
Bring that right up
Okay, please do.
on my computer here. Okay, so I have, and these are not in any particular order, just how they're ordered on my machine here, to be honest with you. And I'm gonna leave the school stuff out because, for now. So we have a request, a request in for about $78,000, to deal with, referred to as the, Leo LaRoche Roundhouse on Leo LaRoche Field. And that's the green building that's kind of in the, between the softball fields, the baseball fields, and kind of the walkway. That building's in pretty rough shape. The roof is about had it. Actually, I shouldn't say about had it. It has had it. It's well past its serviceable life. We have a lot of rot to the building that goes around. The doors that are there are actually old storefront doors that have plywood screwed to them, and they're having a hard time actually operating because they're not really made for a piece of plywood to be screwed to them. So there's a lot of repairs. There's bathrooms in there that really are not usable for the general public because of the egress to them. So I'm really looking at doing quite a bit of upgrades to that to make it a more usable facility. And that estimate came through at $78,000. So it's roof replacement, bathroom facility upgrade, entry doors, electrical that needs to be done, wood rot replacement is all listed in that particular project, and that's basically to rebuild the whole building and keep it a useful facility.
Is that considered part of the rec facilities, though?
Well, Amy had something in her forms on the restroom facilities at Leo.
That's a
Roche.
different
Different
project.
project?
Yep.
Okay.
So, and the interesting part is this building is actually on school grounds, not on town grounds, but there's a memorandum of understanding between the school and the town for that particular property. So the property is managed by the rec department, but it is a school-owned piece of land.
You're aware the town owns 27% of the space across where the new parking lot is from the high school?
I understand that there was something, I'd use a word that you'd say, your shenanigans going on. I'm just joking with that. I understand there's some other things that are at play with some of that.
Yeah.
Let me open the next one. So, another one was I wonder.
But you said town hall projects too. Is there a
I
sheet
do,
with a
and
bunch of those?
I have recreational parking lot as the next one in my list of things. The rec department parking lot's in pretty rough shape. It needs to be reground and resurfaced. A lot of cracking, a lot of breakup area. It's not really that serviceable. So looking at grinding the whole surface down and resurfacing, it's $61,600.
Is that something that'll be done in-house? Public Works?
We don't have the equipment to grind that property. We'd be bidding that out, competitive bid, to grind it all down, and then regrade and do a base coat, top coat of binder coat and then a top coat. And we also deal with, we got a few catch basins, and we talk about our MS4 stuff. This is kind of some of the things we also have to deal with, is making sure that our catch basins are working properly. And also part of the other we have with MS4 is we need to reduce the amount of impervious surfacing. So part of my idea or plan would be to target this area to do some of that pervious surfacing, not unsimilar to like what we did at the police station. So trying to do some of those things. I don't know why this, I don't know what happened to it.
But none of these are in the rec department, which are the first 6 pages.
That's correct, although the rec department is actually, if you look at the bathroom facilities and splash pad, it's actually a project that's worked through facilities too, because we'll be managing the project and setting it all up.
Well, it's also putting an open roof over the basketball court.
That one, you'll have to talk to Amy about that. She just explained that one to me, that she wants to put like a canopy
Oh, the shelter.
shelter over the basketball court.
Yeah.
And so I didn't do the research on that. Splash pad, the bathroom facilities is all done through facilities, but that particular one is not. I did talk to her about a few of those things.
Yeah, okay.
The next one I'm gonna bring up in my list here is, actually the Stone, Museum, which we don't, that is a town asset. That particular facility, needs some, stonework. Thus called the Stone Museum.
That's the building next to the stone church.
That is next, the stone building is next to the stone building, which is, yes.
Next
And
to the
we
stone
own that
church.
versus the stone church.
Yeah, Stone Church is a private
Yeah, no, I know.
ownership, and the Stone Museum is actually, the facility is owned by the town. The operations that are done inside are done by the Historical Society.
So
Yeah,
And they own parking.
the archives, that's owned by the
just like
historical
the church
society.
owns the town hall parking lot, yes.
So that particular building,
You weren't
the
aware of that?
stonework needs to be, it was, years ago, somebody did some repair work to it. There's some pretty strict standards when you start talking old facilities like that and the mortar that you use. It has a lot to do with just lime content. More lime content of the older material than the new material. And so what's happened is you'll see some of the stuff has turned pink out there. And the other problem is if you don't do the proper material, it actually starts to break the stone down. And you can start seeing some of that as you look through that. And the wrong mortar will start to break away or chip away at a much higher rate.
But it's a necessary building that should be maintained.
I'd say any building that we own should be maintained and as such. And this is a building we own that needs to have that maintenance done. And that repointing work, if you want to call it that, which is not technically repointing, but is $64,600 worth of work. And I do have that as a D, and the reason I have that as a D in this particular one is because it is very desirable, but we're not in one of those situations where if I don't do it in the next year, we're gonna have chunks falling out of the building, but it's something that we do need to address, so I've shown it starting in 24-25 fiscal year.
And it's not a historic building or
Well,
something like
that's,
that?
it is, it's actually on the National Register as an individual nomination.
Yeah.
So
So
it
we-
is a historic building.
We usually call those historic preservations, not registered, those particular buildings, so we have to preserve the integrity of the building.
I understand, and it's certainly a nice to have, but in an environment where we have yet to put away the right amount of capital to keep the things we use every day done, keeping up historical buildings under historical standards is not necessarily the best use of the lack of funds that we have. It may be what everybody wants to do anyway, but it's a long-term thought that says, gee, you get rid of some of the stuff that we have and better use some of the buildings that we have, but it's down the road.
Greg, when you
I
went,
think what happened, to be honest with you, and I don't mean to interrupt, when I sent you that package, it's like 35 documents.
maybe it got lost in the
I think it,
spam.
I don't think it was, I think you hit, I don't
Okay.
think it sent it all, because I've got Public Works in here, I've got Town Hall, I've got,
I didn't get any of those.
Oops.
Yeah, it was too big a,
it's a
Did you
big
see it?
file.
too big.
Right, but you didn't see the document.
No,
No, we didn't pass it on to the committee. All right, well, I will work with Greg and get copies of
Yeah.
it.
Well, it sounds like
from
we should
tomorrow.
probably
That's
end up,
fine.
rather than doing it verbally, is something we can turn around and do tomorrow?
That's
I'm
what I'm
here for
hoping
the whole
to do.
meeting tomorrow too, if you'd like.
Yeah, could we?
Well, not like, I would.
Yeah, we
I'd
can-
rather see something if we have a chance.
Right,
To give you an idea, what's in there is Public Works. I've got, and I've actually classified, there's 4 different Public Works ones that I have in there.
The gymnasium.
The roof is one of
the
them,
roof
but
is one of them. Did we do anything
you want, hey, you
with
want
the roof?
you want a good one though? Here's the thing that may make you smile, because I like to make people smile. Okay, the roof replacement at that section, which is above the garage, can be done under our ESCO program with the energy savings that we will be saving through the building. We're also looking at as how that's getting paid for, not just replacing it, all new insulation, because the existing insulation has gotten wet and it's no longer useful. And the roof's like Swiss cheese. But a full solar array on top of that roof, which would actually, where we're actually gonna get the payback by putting a full solar array up there. I even got one better. When we start talking town hall, we're talking a solar array on the roof here.
With a grant from some agencies in London.
This is all part of that same program. So I had 4
That's good.
Public Works documents, police station, town hall.
Most of the stuff.
Yeah, I didn't see the
is gonna
senior
cost
center.
money.
Yeah, that senior center. Well, the reason you didn't see senior center, so remember our threshold is equipment up to 10,000 or more, and CIP 50,000 or more. Well, I do have things but they don't fall in the category. So like I've got a $15,000 HVAC I want to update at the Sunrise Center that does not fall within capital improvements. But luckily, last year's committee was able to add a new line item into my budget, which is repair replacements. It got populated with $75,000. That is what that type of projects fall into.
I was just gonna say that, yeah.
So, Town Hall has 4 different submissions, which also, one of them is a solar array that can be covered under that ESCO. So I'm looking to try to, and I think the hard part is there's a bunch of these things that I'll be talking about that I'll be doing a presentation hopefully very shortly that would be covered under all of that. I'm looking at about $1.9 million worth of upgrades to facilities in the town. That the majority of, and I'm being very careful because I don't have all the details, but I do think it's fair to give the information. Majority of about 1.6 to 1.7 of that can be paid through energy savings alone. Which is pretty substantial. And that means new heating and air conditioning, controls, insulation in this building, a solar array, all in this building.
We have reliable heat in
I'm
the
just
winter.
trying to-
Oh, yes.
Air
All new boiler
conditioning in
plants, all new
summer.
cooling plants, and energy management, so you can call me and say, Greg, I'm cold, and I can actually look at your room.
So I'll be
Thank you.
seeing the report and getting the presentation shortly as part of it.
Yeah, it does make it a little hard when we start talking the capital piece to this, because $1.9 million worth of repairs or upgrades to town facilities, which is all capital, where right now the initial run is about 1.7 that is 100% energy reductions, savings. So it's a net zero impact to the budget.
What I say to you is that if any of those things in the ESCO report for us to consider are urgent, that we need to do them next year.
The problem is that we need to package this as one because, for instance, the lighting upgrades at the library reduces energy costs at the library, but that, because the payback is 6 years, I can use that money to help fund something that has a 25-year payback, so it all comes into the math.
Right, I'm just trying to figure out, I mean, there's potential hide the salami and everything, but the way this works, so you understand, is if the energy company says, I can save you $1.7 million, okay, in operating expenses over a series of time, here's $1.7 million worth of equipment, just to keep the numbers straight. There's interest and other stuff in there. And it won't cost you anything, because I'll guarantee you'll have $1.7 million worth of savings over the next 7 or 8 years, or whatever it is, to pay for the $1.7 million of equipment. So we never write a check. We effectively enter a lease where our operating cost savings will be paying for the lease cost. So if we're paying $100,000 for electricity, we save $20,000. That $20,000 would then go pay for the equipment, and it would
Pays for our lease is what it does.
so for the next 7 years, we would still have $100,000 of expense, because we just shifted 20 out of electricity into a lease payment. And then the theory would be after 7 years, you actually realize the savings.
Our building with the actual, believe it or not, the biggest return on our investment,
Town hall.
nope.
Public
Fire
Works?
department and Public Works has the biggest, they are the highest consumer of energy and have the biggest return on investment
Well,
of
Does
all
that
of our
include
facilities.
wastewater and water?
Wastewater and water, we did not do an audit on at this time, and it's good that we didn't. We are doing some upgrades there. There'll be a package coming to Town Hall for a new boiler plant that's gas-fired condensing for one of their facilities there. I've been working with Sean on that. But with the updates and improvements that he's done a very good job of already pulling a lot of those things that we could have gotten.
it sort of makes sense, because that's the biggest space that we have and the highest ceilings. And
Actually, it consumes more energy than one of our schools does.
yeah,
And a lot of it has to do with, you've got a parking garage, so when you open the garage doors, it's a heated garage, all the heat goes out. So one of the things that you look at is you put a control system in that turns around and says, if the garage door is open, don't run the heat.
or don't run the heat if you have holes in the roof, because the heat escapes that way too.
I wouldn't call them holes, I'd call them, buildings need to breathe.
Yeah, right, a little too much.
It's that place we did the drive-by, across from, okay. Yeah,
So there's a lot of wonderful things coming there, so what that actually comes through to what CIP is we're right on that edge of how to figure that
what
out.
I would say is if there's this ESCO group that takes some of the pieces we already have and a few of the pieces we haven't seen that you've prepared, we just haven't gotten, let's deal with that as an ESCO group, because if we're gonna do that project, then we're not gonna have to look, in theory, at capital as the source of funding for that. That
Well,
group of
remember, that is
projects-
still subject to
Well, I understand.
approval, and there is a piece of it that, I don't want to say there's a piece that we need to come up with some cash up front for, because the return does not pay for itself as a whole. So there's those pieces that we have to be able to get past, or not, I shouldn't say past, because I feel uncomfortable giving too much of it out because I don't have all the detailed
No,
information,
that's
because
fine.
I don't want to mislead anybody at this point.
I'm just trying to put it as a group, because if we're sitting here as CIP, saying, what are the capital projects we need, and how much are we gonna recommend funding those capital projects, and which ones has the highest priority, which is part of what we do. If this group of projects over here, nothing is urgent, okay, then we're gonna look at that package over the next couple of months. It's not gonna happen in the next week and a half or 2 weeks, I would think, that we're gonna make a decision on this. And we'll just have to look at it as a separate piece of the capital budget that says if this goes to ESCO type projects, then we don't need to consider that in capital funding. If this gets turned down, then guess what? Our capital list for next year,
I will tell you, there is parts of this that we will have to fund.
the roof.
The roof is one of them, but actually the heating plant in this building is not operational right now. There's actually 2 of them.
No.
Yeah,
Hoping
It's
for
a
an
big
Indian
surprise.
summer?
what's that?
Hoping for an Indian summer?
Yeah, if it can go all winter. So there is a big impact to this building for us to try to even get this system back online. That's why we're pushing to try to get this package together. It's a lot. The audit itself is a 3 to 4 month process by itself.
If there's nothing in here that's an ESCO project that slid in through Amy's stuff, okay,
Amy got her ESCO is done.
okay. So if what we're missing is some ESCO related and some non-ESCO related projects, let's put them in that sort of 2 groups so we
Yep.
know which
And
ones.
what I'll try to do, I'll work on, is to not only, I'll give you, I will create the list of the ESCO projects that we're looking at as a whole, because some of them are a $10,000 project that wouldn't fall into CIP, but yet are part of the whole piece. For instance, the Sunrise Center, we're looking at updating the lighting in there that has a great payback. The lighting at the library has a great payback. So we look at all of
Anything with high
those.
ceilings, that's an old building.
What's that?
It sounds like anything that's high ceilings with an old building.
Actually, you know, the funny part is, my experience with a lot of this, some of the best return on investments are some of the newest buildings. And it's primarily because when you build the building, you're not looking at really creating the highest efficiency. You're looking, especially in municipalities, you look at building a building based on a cost. Something that was voter approved. You're not looking to put in the LEEDs Platinum type building that costs, double of what you're trying to get built. So that's why some of those you'll end up with fluorescent lighting like here, and these have great returns on investment for us. So,
It's the pay me now or pay me later, and let's not make the bond double the size to get the efficiency over the next 50 years. Let's do it a little less expensively and pay the operating expenses.
and keep in mind, every 15 to 20 years, the measures that you can put in have already, what you put in 20 years ago is, the big thing is fluorescence. You guys remember compact fluorescent? It's already obsolete. So, and you can get everything in LED, and the next thing you got OLEDs coming, and you've got all kinds of new products that are coming out that just change it.
That's why GE exited the light bulb business. There ain't no future.
So, I'll apologize. I didn't check the list that Diane sent back, but then again, at the same token, I think probably it got lost in translation.
I'll look.
Because I know there's 4 for Public Works, that's 8 more projects
Okay.
to talk
All
about
right,
right there.
we'll get them.
We have a 2 o'clock tomorrow, I think.
Yeah.
I doubt it's gonna come out tonight, so if we can get hard copy, and if you wanna take a look at it, we'll
I'll
see
see
it
if
at 2
I
o'clock
bring it to the
tomorrow.
meeting tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I can do.
Or if you wanna, maybe we can get it done 15 minutes early so you can flip through it a little bit, but, Greg knows this stuff, he can walk us through it without any much prep, I think.
Oh, no, I've been prepping for the last 6 months for
I
this
know.
meeting.
Okay? Yeah.
I think we got some exciting stuff coming up. I really do.
Super. Why don't we slide that for tomorrow, if we
Yep.
fit in the schedule?
No,
And Diane, I'd say you and I need to connect in the morning. Is that what
sure.
would be the?
I'll take a look and see if I have it. I do.
I showed all sent, but you know how sometimes these things
Well,
go.
sometimes, yeah, things get lost in the translation and the shuffle.
It shows something like 36 documents that were sent to you.
So we're at 46 now, so that's another, what,
Sorry about that.
Okay, and
Well-
if we fit it in tomorrow, because things are running smoothly, great, and if not, we said originally to 6, and we're scheduled through 5.
and I will email Phil to see if he's coming tomorrow.
Okay,
I haven't received
if he
anything.
wants to do a drive-by, that's fine. I don't know if I make the motion, or you guys make the
Yeah,
motion, or,
the committee members do.
okay. Do I have a
I'll make a
motion to adjourn? And a half an hour early, at least.
Yeah, we're doing really well.
Wait a second.
Yes.
Who's first and second?
First.
First, second. Amy.
Aye.
And I recognize this is all new. I tried to spend a little bit of time in tying some of the pieces together, because when you get 40 of these pages, your mind.
Yeah, I've been through this on the town council side, so I'm
Turn to
okay. Yep,
guacamole.
yep, this is term 2 for me, so
But
I'm
it's
okay.
open season.
I've got it.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
It's a
there's,
lot.